In this review we're going to look at a crane model, but it's something a little bit different. April 2025 saw the massive Bauma exhibition in Munich in Germany, and the Italian mini crane manufacturer Jekko had a model on its stand. And in this review we take a look at that model. It is a Jekko SPX328 mini crane, and it's in the large scale of 1:18 because the real machine is actually very small. Turning the box around, we see that it's made by IMC models.
Let's weigh it up.
As usual, the box makes its way to the weighbridge, and it comes in at about 1 pound 13 ounces, which is 820 grams. On we go to the unpacking department, where we can open it up and see what's inside. Out come some clear plastic formers that contain the model, and we need to separate the top and bottom halves. There's a bit of tape around, so we need to separate that, and then we can get to taking the model out. But wait, underneath the formers there is also some parts, and they're contained in a couple of plastic bags. Next we can dive in and carefully take the model out. And the first sense you get is that it's quite a heavy and solid model. So here is everything from the box. There's a plastic pointer, a key, 3 bags of pins which are labelled, there's an extra hook, and there's also an instruction card.
Let's weigh it up again.
There's no assembly to do, so onto the weighbridge it goes, and it's about 1 pound 7 ounces, which is 655 grams. We start underneath, where things are fairly simple, with some large holes where there are securing screws, and you can see the black rubber tracks. And on the real machine they can also be white for indoor use. The track sprocket is quite detailed, and the track frames are fairly simple like the real machine. The rollers are modelled, but they're non-functional. Moving to the back, and the body shape is cast well and the panels are indicated, and there's some nice sharp graphics and artwork. In travelling mode, the outriggers are all folded up, and they are of an all-metal construction. And a plus point are the very small friction pin connections. Moving to the front, and there's more nice detailing of the bodywork, and the skillful highlighting of panel handles and hinges. That continues on the front, and there's also a nice looking Jekko logo on the top. Back to the outriggers, and they have metal pads and chevron decoration, and each one is individually numbered. And there's a protection bar for the hydraulic piston on top. The crane itself also has a very high metal content, and the warning light beacon is modelled with coloured paints. The model also features the winch, which is an option on the real crane, and it has a discrete axle to be used with the key that's supplied. There's also a modelled floodlight. The telescopic boom is multi-section, and the walls are nicely thin. Here you see the fixed hook, but the chains are not included with the model. The first thing to test is how the model moves, and the reality is that the crawler tracks are very stiff, so they don't roll naturally. They do move, however, and you can roll them by hand, but there's just too much friction for the tracks to roll normally on a smooth surface. One feature of the real machine is that it can carry some loads, so let's put a load on it in a transport configuration. And here we're using it to carry a couple of small metal beams. This is a mini crane, and for comparison here is the Cranes Etc. Boss in the same scale. To do some serious lifting we need to set up the outriggers, and they are pivoting and can be rotated into position. The outward movement is controlled by very stiff hydraulic rams, and that's a plus point because it does mean that they will hold a pose. The real machine is capable of different outrigger configurations, and that's been modelled here too. You can set each outrigger at one of 2 different angles, and that gives the machine flexibility when setting up in tight spaces. To To lock the outrigger in position, you use a steel pin, and unless you've got super thin fingers, you probably need to use a pair of pliers. The pivot of the lower outrigger beam is also locked in position, and what we're seeing here is the first of the locked positions. A plus point of the modelling of the outriggers is that they will support the machine with the tracks off of the ground. Once we're all stable, we can raise the boom, and again the twin hydraulic rams are really quite stiff. The telescopic sections just pull out in the usual way, and of course you can rotate the crane in any position in a complete circle. Another option of the real crane and on the model is to switch away from a fixed hook, and to do that you pin it into the boom head. We can then take some rope off of the winch drum, and there's a key supplied to be able to do that. And the rope needs to be run up through a rope guide on the underside of the boom. You then take it up to the boom head, and there are a couple of pulleys to enable a multi-line hook block to be used. But we only need to run the rope through once here because the hook that's supplied with the model is a single line block. And once it's set up, you can play crane driver and use the winch. Another configuration option that the model facilitates is a wider spread of the outriggers. And to do that, you alter the pinning position of the lower leg, and it has a telescopic section which can be pulled out, and fully extended it locks into place. There's also a locking pin system on each section of the telescopic boom.
Time for a dim check.
With the boom fully extended, let's get the tape measure out, and it comes in at about 21 inches or 55 centimeters. This is a large-scale model of an unusual type of crane. IMC Models has made a really nice job of it because it has a very high metal content and therefore a quality feel. A plus point are the various configuration options. To buy the model you need to contact Jekko, and the link is in the description below. And all things considered, this model of a Jekko mini crane is rated as excellent.